This is Little Mac, a character famous for being one of the worst in the entire game. He's known for his short combos, terrible aerials, and hard to hit KO punch. He has a pretty predictable playstyle. However, there is a mix-up that I use that no one else seems to take advantage of. Jab KO Punch, a brilliant move that relies on reading your opponent's panic options and turning their fear into your advantages. But why is this such a good mix-up? To answer that question, we're gonna have to look at every possible option that your opponent has after being jabbed by Little Mac. As we go through the different options that your opponent can do out of jab, it is important to keep in mind that this is a mix-up. This is not supposed to be your primary use for catching people with KO punch. That would be your down tilt and up tilt combos. But without further ado, let's get right into it, talking about one of the most common things that your opponent does after being jabbed. Nothing. Everybody isn't Spargo, so a lot of the time, players, especially ones online, will not expect Little Mac's frame 1 jab, resulting in a lot of scenarios like these. Now let's take a look at the second most common panic option, the buffered attack. One of the most common situations that we find ourselves in whenever we play online is people who are mashing out of disadvantage because they are too afraid of making a movement option based on reaction. This is because online is laggier than real life and can often result in you getting punished if you don't try and predict a move. However, we can use this to our advantage. By predicting that our opponent will buffer an attack, we are able to dash out of the way and dash back in to punish whatever move it was. This is because Little Mac is the third fastest character in the game and has enough time to jab and then outspeed his opponent's attack, punishing them with ease. The roll. As we stated earlier, Little Mac is one of the fastest characters in the entire game. If your opponent rolls left or right, then you should keep that habit in mind, knowing that they'll use it in disadvantage, especially panicking when you have KO punch. This can be a tricky skill to master, and oftentimes when you're playing online, it's easier to just read a roll rather than react to one. Now, if you're not very confident with a roll read, you don't have to follow it up with a KO punch. Instead, you can follow it up with another jab. This is because the jab acts as a reset of sorts. Instead of just relying on a read, you're able to mix them up a second time, making them panic further. Most of the time, your opponent won't have the composure to choose a different option, and they'll actually spam the same option that they have been doing the entire match. The jump. Jumping out of disadvantage is usually a very safe option for almost any player. However, when jumping out of disadvantage against Little Mac jab, there's actually not enough time to escape it before the KO punch can land. Which means if you're confident enough that your opponent is going to jump, you should attempt to spam KO punch as fast as you can after jabbing them, because they can't escape it in time. The spot dodge. The last option we're going to go over today is the spot dodge. Now, this option is usually used by people who understand that you're going to go for a jab KO punch. This means that you should probably be using it a little bit less. This is supposed to be a mix-up. It's not supposed to be used as your primary tool for hitting KO punch. That being said, if you start to notice your opponent is spot dodging all of your jab KO punches, take a second and wait them out. However, there is a little bit of risk to this. If your opponent understands that you're just going to wait them out each time, they can also come back with just an attack out of disadvantage, which is why you should always weigh your options and try to make a decision based off your opponent's previous reactions and based off of what you think is going to happen. This is a mix-up, which means it's not always going to work, but it's such a great tool that I feel like you should try to incorporate it into your gameplay. If you guys haven't already, I don't say this a lot, but please consider subscribing and liking the video. It really helps me out, and I put in a ton of work for this video. The reason I haven't uploaded in a while is because I had a concussion due to a wrestling accident, and then I also had been working on a lot of college applications. So I'm so sorry that this video took like a month to come out, but I would please ask of you to share it and hopefully go check out some other videos on the channel, because I'm trying to do this in college, and if I have enough support, I will. So, thank you so much for watching. This has been Chief Char, and goodbye!